Hi, I'm your instructor. My name is Dr. Delgado. I'm recording this video because during our first lecture, the download process from converting it from the Zoom meeting to the MP4, there was an error. So I'm going to redo the lecture, which was an introduction to Canvas, and I'm going to upload that. I'm also going to create a separate video that is just detailed onto Pearson. That will be separate. I'll also be doing a separate video that's entitled Emails, in which we'll be talking about email etiquette, how to create professional emails, and that will be also separately. So during this video, we are going to try to focus on Canvas. I may mention a few things in terms of the emails and Pearson, but in a very briefly. And as mentioned before, they will be addressed specifically in other videos to come. So let me share, and I don't know why it zoomed in so close to me, but I'm going to share a screen. And let's start out with, I guess, a little bit about me. Brief intro of me. And this was something that it's on your Canvas, it's in your files. And this is one could call it a resume, but more specifically, it's a CV. If you've taken a look at your announcements, I mentioned I was going to place this up. And the reason for it is because I think every student should have an idea of the background, educational, and experience of their instructors. One for transparency, and as a result, I'm sharing my part of my life with you. So I mentioned in this announcement in regards to the resume or CV that if your car were to break down, you have car problems, and you have to take it to a mechanic, would you want to spend money and send it to a mechanic that is knowledgeable? Or if you went to the dentist, would you like to know that your dentist is an actual dentist and not maybe a fake dentist that just wanted to pretend to be a dentist? Or if you're going to get surgery, would you like to know if your surgeon has experience or not? So I think this implies in academics. Who is your instructor? What is their background? And I think that's an important thing. It might be odd. This may be the first time a professor has approached it like this. So let's get with it. So again, my name is Dr. James Delgado, and I am a toxicologist. My PhD is in toxicology, and my bachelor's degree is in chemistry from Texas A&M International, having you PhD from Iowa State University. I am a full-time faculty here at Southwest Texas Junior College. Courses that I've taught here before are the A&P 1 and 2, micro and biology. And I have, we'll call it 8 years of teaching experience. So in various academic settings, including junior high, high school, community college, all the way up to universities and graduate students. However, there is really, my experience goes beyond the 8 years. I have not placed it in this CV for the following reason. When I was a senior in high school, my chemistry instructor was trying to explain a particular concept, and he was experiencing some difficulty. Chemistry can be challenging to take, understand, let alone teach concepts to new students in high school. I was a senior, I raised my hand, and I said, I think I can explain this. He was surprised, said, sure, come on up, give it a shot. So I did, volunteered, and it went really well. He was impressed, and so were my classmates. And since that day, I would co-teach chemistry with my chemistry instructor. Then my physics instructor got word and wanted to see if I was capable of maybe co-teaching physics to my classmates, and I was successful at that. So my teaching career really starts as a senior in high school, teaching chemistry and physics in a classroom. After that, I went after graduating from Cruise City High School. I went to Southwest Texas Junior College, and I also tutored there as well. I tutored physics, chemistry, algebra, trig, and those were my main courses. So teaching experience has been actually more than 8, but the 8 years that are in my CV, those are official uh, teaching experiences. I have taught for as a consultant, science interventionist for junior high, and I've taught here as community college professor. In Iowa State, I was instructor for biology, and specifically here in the Department of Genetics, Development, and Cell Biology at Iowa State University. So in charge of my lab, I have my lab students, grading. So I have experience teaching university students. Other teaching comes from the teaching assistant for a graduate level courses. That means people who've already have their bachelor's degrees. So I was teaching risk assessment for variety in food, agriculture, variety in medicine. That was mainly focused on risk assessment. My background is risk assessment, microtoxicology, environmental toxicology, human and animal risk assessments. So what is a toxicologist? What is that? Am I your first toxicologist that you've ever met before? Most likely. If you have met another toxicologist, it's probably for maybe possible investigation to a crime. It could be due to some sort of toxicologist that you maybe met in a hospital who's trying to look at certain analysis, blood, to determine a problem that one may be experiencing. So a toxicologist is an individual with a very broad and in-depth understanding of the science. If you Google toxicology, what is it? You may find toxicology in the center of many science fields, and all these arrows pointing toward toxicology. So in order to become a toxicologist, the individual has to be well-rounded, not in one subject, but in many, many subjects. A toxicologist cannot be deficient in chemistry, or deficient in biology, or microbiology, or cell biology, or biophysics. It all comes into play in order to be a toxicologist. There are very few toxicologists. Usually the degrees awarded for masters and PhD students. There are very few programs in the world that offer a bachelor's degree in toxicology because of the background and knowledge that it requires. Okay. So I might be one of the few. As far as I know, I don't not think Laredo has a toxicologist. As far as I know, I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. As far as I know, El Paso does not have a toxicologist. San Antonio does have a few toxicologists there. So there are not many of us. So feel free to ask questions in terms of science behind toxicology. What is toxicology? What is the definition? I told you what it takes to become one, but what really is it? In simple terms, it is an individual that studies the effects of biological toxins and chemicals that occur in humans or in nature and the environment. So, chemicals being derived by humans, being made by humans, known as xenobiotics, and toxins being things that are made by nature. It could be plants, insects, it could be rattlesnake venom, it could be black widows. So both biological and non-biological studies in humans and non-humans, meaning animals, humans, dirt, you name it. It could be any type of system. That's what a toxicologist is. Research background or industry. I've worked in industry So that brings a new perspective as a professor. I haven't just stayed in the realm of academics. I've branched out. I've worked with the federal government, the United States Department of Agriculture. I have worked in industry. And so I think that really brings a good uh, situation because now you can ask questions that are not just non-academic things. What's out there? How do you manage people? What are you looking for as a supervisor or manager? So I'm also a published scientist. I'm working on a few other publications. I've also been a journal reviewer. So when scientists finish writing up their manuscripts and they've done their research and everything, and when I mean research, I'm not talking about you go to Google and you find some literature review and you write a research paper. Most of the time, I hear students here at Salvador Texas Junior College tell me that they are doing research. Most of the time, they're not doing research. What they are doing is a literature review, meaning they are looking at somebody else's work that has been published, they read it, and they read a bunch of those papers, and then they write a paper about it. That's not research. That's called reading. The difference between reading and doing research. To do research, you have to come up with a hypothesis. You test the hypothesis. You do an experimental design. You have controls. So there's a whole process to this, and it usually takes some time. So when someone says in your syllabus, it says, oh, this is your research project, and you have to write a paper, it's not a research project. You're not doing research. You're doing a literature review. It is important to do a literature review. That is the beginning first, actually the second step. Come up with a hypothesis. Your second step is to conduct a thorough literature review to see if someone else has addressed this hypothesis. So when scientists come, they bring their information. I reviewed it. Another panel of scientists review it, and we determine and try to help them out and try to improve upon it. And if sometimes we have to deny the publication, we do not let it get published, and sometimes we accept. Sometimes we accept with revisions. Sometimes we just flat out deny it. Sometimes we accept with revisions and it comes back and we still have to end up denying. So you have an instructor who's been a researcher, worked in industry, worked in the federal government, has been a journal reviewer, has been a publisher in science, research journals. What else we can talk about here? Industry, I've been a manager and supervisor, so I specifically in the food industry. And some of the things I was doing there is I was a liaison to Walmart, HEB, Cisco, many different food companies where I would have to communicate with them to see what they wanted. They're very specific on certain items. I've also had to be the go-to person to address any FDA questions, which are FDA is the Food, Drug, and Administration. I've had to address questions to the United States Department of Agriculture as well as the Texas Department of State and Human Services. I've had to deal with any legal issues or any recalls or mock recalls, internal quality systems, developing the HACCP programs, which is the hazard analysis and critical control points of the whole entire food process of a large facility responsible for food safety designs and systems. So I have some background in these things. And I think that will be beneficial to all students because it helps us, when you ask questions about certain things. My background, I think it provides a broad view of what's out there. So I've done some work as an ecotoxicologist. Also, that was done at Iowa State University, so I was looking more into the environment. So that's what I was doing there. Lots of laboratory experience in terms of environmental health and safety laboratory technician. So I was kind of a one-man band, so in charge of the lab, making sure we adhere to the regulations, make sure we adhere to environmental health and safety. done some legal work in terms of litigation, compliance, litigation, and defense for asbestos. This was my first teaching appointment. I was a chemistry supplemental instructor with our professor, who's currently still here, Professor Garcia. He teaches chemistry, so I worked with him, the supplemental instructor. Here in Crystal City, I was the first laboratory consultant and laboratory instructor we had in our school district. So we had some brand new labs, helped design them, get them up and running, and our students had me as their personal lab instructor and consultant. Some research work, intern stuff for University of Wisconsin. Here's some additional professional training that I've had. Preventive controls for human food, industrial food processing methods, introduction to compliance. So you can kind of go through here, and this is just continuing education. You have to continue to educate and keep up to date. So these are some presentations. Feel free to take a look at them. These are some awards, professional organization affiliations, leadership activities. So that is overall the background on me in terms of academic experience. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. And close that. Now let's take a look at campus. I'm going to share. All right, so we did the introduction portion of who I am and background and so forth. Now let's take a look at campus. So if you are in the first city section, you will be here. If you're in the Uvalde section, you're here in the Pearsall section. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go into the first city section. And I'm going to go into student view. This is what it'll look like. Okay. So we have announcements, assignments, discussions, and grades. One of the main things here when I load up information, it'll be in files. So what do we have in files? This is going to be important. So when I say it is in your files, you'll have a folder there, and you can go and see this information right now. Most of you already have. So here's information for instructor credit. So let's pause here and let's talk about something. I am your lecturer, professor. Instructor in FEDIS is your lab instructor. So you have two instructors for this course. You have me, I will be discussing the lecture. Instructor FEDIS will be involved in your lab. Instructor FEDIS and I work closely together, so we'll try to be in sync with content, aid you through this process. Emails, in terms of lab, any questions that are going to be involved in the lab, you need to contact your instructor FEDIS for that. Any questions pertaining to the lecture, you should address them to me. Okay, so we have two instructors for this lab. It's very important to know that. Last semester, there seems to be some confusion, even though we addressed it multiple times. So I hope this semester we're all on the same page. So I'm your lecture professor, and instructor FEDIS is for the lab. Here we have our PowerPoints for the course. They're already uploaded. I highly recommend that you take a look at these PowerPoints. So I believe we have chapters 11 through 21. Okay, 11 to 21. Here are PowerPoints. And here's where we can preview the resumes, instructor FEDIS and myself. I think that's pretty cool that your instructors put that out there. So you can go there. Now, if you come home, you can see that we already have these YouTube videos. For example, this video right now When I'm done, it'll get loaded up. It's going to get converted. Hopefully everything works. Then I will upload it to YouTube, get the code from YouTube, embed it into your Canvas. So you don't, it's so simple. And you can come into your Canvas and start watching. So those who can attend live lectures or live lab presentations, great. Those who cannot, that's okay. It's not mandatory. It's not mandatory to attend live lectures or live laboratory presentations. Okay. Now, there is an advantage to attending a live presentation or lecture. It's that you can ask questions, or if I ask questions, you have the opportunity to get bonus points if you answer correctly. So that is one advantage. But if you're working, you have other responsibilities, that's okay. Now, we all agree that this COVID-19 situation is a very bad situation. It's hurt a lot of people economically. Some people have gained from it. For example, companies that make alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, hand sanitizer, gloves, PPE, personal protective equipment, they have a lot of business right now, but others have been hurt in the process. And this Zooming lecture has allowed students to take a class even though they cannot meet during these set lecture times. That's a positive. So for some, they wouldn't be able to take this class because it was mandatory to be in class, attend lectures, and now, because of COVID-19, maybe some people who didn't have that opportunity now have an opportunity. So regardless of the place, regardless of the time, you can watch these videos. So you come here, we already have these videos posted for you. I'll be adding more. You can also find them in your discussion. Yeah. Here's where you would have your grade book, grades. Now this is a student version, so you can't see text. Now let's talk about modules. I do not sync, and this is where we get into a little bit of Pearson, a little bit. I do not sync all the Pearson modules into Canvas, and here's why. I'm going to leave student view. I'm going to go to Summer 1 AMP's gradebook. Names have been blocked out. You can't see who they are. But look how extensive this gradebook is. Start from the beginning. It's a fairly extensive gradebook. You can see this class is going to take some work and dedication to succeed. Now, if I were to import every single module you do, this is going to become very popular. And the reason I don't do it is that when you think Pearson, you go to your Pearson, you can check your Pearson gradebook. When you think lab exams, lab assignments, lecture exams, you come here to Canvas. Therefore, if something happens wrong with a lecture assignment, lecture exam, or a lab exam, you know where you can go. It's easier to spot that. If I overpopulate the gradebook with so much information, so many points, you may not be able to spot an error. Maybe I made an error. The instructor made an error. In case you're wondering, like, well, you don't sync the Pearson modules into the gradebook, then how are you going to get the grade for in Canvas? Well, towards the end, for example, here's our Pearson. Last semester, it was a possible 460 points. That's the max that someone could get. And then I manually enter them in. Now, you can see that some people got the max. Some people didn't. 10 points. It's very important to do Pearson. If you do not do it, it will affect you. It will affect you. You can see the correlation with those who did it. Who did it pretty well. Those that didn't do it, that's like half. That's approximately half of the points of the 460. You have 241. Didn't do so good. So you can see here 83 points. Here's 0 points out of the Pearson. So please work on your Pearson. I have created the class. I'm just waiting to get the confirmation back. It takes some time for it to build. I can email and I'll send you that. I will do a separate video on that. Okay. So this is just a brief update in terms of this. Now let's talk about grades. We were just showing you that. In terms of the grades, 24/7, you can look up your grades anytime. You're tossing and turning, you want to know your grade, can't sleep, go open up Canvas. These are your grades. So always be into the total. Now, in case you wonder, well, it just shows me percent. Here's 94%. Well, you want to know where you're at. It's just like high school. That's an A. Anywhere between a 90 to 100 is an A. 80 to 89 is a B. 70 to a 79 is a C. 60 to 69 is a D as a dog. And anything below a 60 is an F. So it's that simple. It is that simple in terms of the grades. You will always know. There is no need to contact me or Instructor Pettis to ask, what is my grade? It's there all the time for you. And that's like when we do a lot of this stuff on Canvas. So you can have access to that and be very transparent. And if there's an error, always feel free to email me or Instructor Pettis. That is in terms of the grades. That's how simple it is and how short we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about emails. Email Instructor Pettis and I on Canvas. On Canvas. You will email us on Canvas. Do not email Instructor Pettis and I to your swtjc.edu email, because we have a lot of other obligations, and just like I'm separating out your Pearson and your Canvas, I want to make sure that I separate my students, put them in Canvas, and everything else that is non-student is going to be in my swtjc.edu email. My priority, number one priority, is you. So I will, first thing in the morning, open up my Canvas, not my Outlook, not checking my other obligations. It is yours. As you can see, I only have, there's just 4 emails. It's not too bad to get emails. So, again, communicate with us via Canvas. Now, I mentioned earlier we will have a separate email, separate presentation talking about emails. I'm going to just give you the scoop briefly. What does this mean? It means that I'm going to address how we need to communicate to one another. We need to communicate professionally. Most of you in this class want to pursue a career in the human health field. That is a very professional occupation. And we need to know how to communicate. Some of you know how to communicate professionally, some of you do. Some of you know how to communicate professionally, but you choose not to. And there are some of you who do not know how to communicate professionally. And it's okay. If that is not your fault. If you do not know how to communicate professionally, that is not your fault. Someone has failed you along the way. And I will not fail you. I'm going to teach you how to communicate to me and anybody else in the future professionally. It is very important. In case you're wondering why does Dr. Delgado want this? Is it because he feels special and he wants these emails to be because that's what I want? No, not because that's what I want. It's because it's what I want for you. It's not for me. It's for you. I don't want you to write in the future an email to supervisor or boss in a manner in which they are not going to approve. In a manner in which they're going to tell others at the management level how you wrote that email. I don't want that. Oftentimes, I've been in management and higher ups keep it at that higher up level. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to make fun of you or call you out in person. Some do, and I actually respect that. If I do something, I want to know. But oftentimes you are not going to know. So then you wonder why you get passed up on that promotion and someone else keeps getting it. And you don't understand. But your emails are there. They're not professional. I would, once I teach you how to do this communication via email in a very professional manner, I would like for you to communicate professionally to all of your calls and scripts because it makes a difference. It really does. I want you to make that good impression. It's important. Now, unfortunately, if I leave this up to choice, there will be those that will not adhere to the recommendations or to the teachings of emails that I try to do. So, I am going to put in your syllabus, after I'm done teaching you how to write and show you examples from actual students who communicated to me professionally without me teaching them. This is the first time I've done this. After I've taught you, and if you send me an email that is not any professional email, I'm going to divide by 2 one of your exam grades and take 50% off of your exam. And if you write again, I will then choose another exam grade that I'm going to slash, divide by 2. We have to learn how to do this. So that's in terms of emails. Okay, I think that does it for now. This is going to be the video again that's going to be discussing my background as well as Canvas. So I plan to use this video in the future for others, have it posted up so people can go through it, have a good understanding. Some students may be new to Canvas, so I think this will aid them in that. So thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for your Pearson videos soon.